Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing a yay or nay episode for Scalebound. This one, I'm not sure what to think. It's Platinum Games. I love Platinum Games. They made Bayonetta. They made Metal Gear, Rising, Revengeance. And I love the games that they make. Really freaking fun games, very fast-paced stuff. And then I watched this one, and it's not so fast-paced. And if you saw I wouldn't say it was shown at Microsoft, so this is Xbox exclusive, or Xbox and Windows 10 exclusive, which I mean, it's not exclusive. Um, but during that, when I did my list, my top 10 list for that, or top whatever I did, my top whatevers, I wasn't excited by it. Like the demo I saw, as cool as it was a lot that they showed off, which I liked, and it was 4-player co-op, which I thought was a cool thing. But visually, what I saw was like, okay, this is a giant boss battle, and it was just, bosses I feel like are the worst thing to show during demos unless they're like insanely unique. Like maybe Shadow of the Colossus would be the only game where you could show the bosses, and that's the whole, it's basically the point of the game. But you actually do stuff different. In every other game, it's basically you just hit the boss and they lose health. There's generally nothing like really crazy about it, and that's what it was. It was just like the health sponge, typical boss, and that's across all games, which is why I always feel like boss battles are the worst thing to show during demos. But that's what they showed, and I was like, this kind of looks boring to me. Like they're just hitting it, and it didn't. I'm like, there's got to be a million nuances that we aren't seeing because this is just a giant boss enemy. But we were seeing people do cool powers. I felt like the main person that we were focusing on was doing like the least entertaining stuff. Other people were doing like crazy moves and stuff. But I just watched 2 other videos. I was like, I wanted to do one on this, so I wanted to make sure that I watched some other stuff and made sure I got a lot of information out of it. So the main character, his name is Drew. The dragon is named Tobin, or Toban, if I remember correctly. And they actually both have customization things, and that was something that I picked up during the press conference. It was like, okay, although all the characters are the same, they all look very different. They all look different. They all have different weapons, and they also have different dragons. So I thought that was cool. And I don't know how that'll play out with single player because that's sort of a multiplayer thing. So there's apparently I was watching the video, and it's like there's a hint in that demo when all the other characters kind of form back into Drew himself when he does like the final strike. And apparently it was said by Hideki Kamiya, who's like the head of the game. He said it in Japanese, but the guy that was translating for me was like, I can't translate that because that's a spoiler for the game. But I think someone in the comments knew Japanese, and they put that it's alternate dimensions, so that's why it's all other Drews, and it's because they did that as a narrative reason. So it's not just, oh, everyone's just one character. It's actually a narrative thing. So they're supposed to be from alternate dimensions if that person, actually spoke Japanese and they knew what he was saying. So those Drews are from alternate dimensions. So that's a minor spoiler. I feel like it's supposed to be narrative, but if it only comes up in co-op, I don't see how it's a spoiler. But that makes me think that it will be more than just that. Even though I still feel like it won't be that big of a thing because you'd feel like that's something they would really show off, but maybe they don't know how they're going to implement it just yet. But that seems very cool. I like that idea. It's not just other characters just look like you or slightly different, but they're actually meant to be alternate dimensions. But the dragons look very different. If you watch that trailer, they look different. They're especially like the last one was like golden and stuff. Looks very different. One of them kind of looks almost kind of like it's luminescent a little bit. So there's a lot of customization. During the gameplay that I watched, there was a lot of different stuff. You can have customization, of course, for Drew as well as the dragon. But your dragon gets different boosts here and there, and different things that you change actually affect how the AI reacts. So it'll change how the dragon attacks characters and stuff like that. You can also get dragon armor, which I thought when I saw it, I was like, that looks really, really cool because it's giant armor for your dragon. It just looks sweet. And you can change all sorts of stuff. You can change the color patterns and stuff. Just everything we saw in the demo. You can change a lot of different things. It seemed like the health of the dragon was actually color coordinated on the actual dragon itself. So in the demo that I saw, and I believe it's the same color in the co-op demo, the spikes and the claws for the dragon are kind of like a sky blue. But I saw something that said like, the character and the dragon are linked. So if your dragon does die during battle, if you don't revive the dragon fast enough, you will, as the player, you'll lose. You'll die and have to start over. So they showed a scene where he actually revived the dragon, and when he got up, it was yellow. So I don't know if that was health based or if that was just a different, customization thing, and they just changed the color. But I was like, that would be cool if it was like it went from light blue to yellow to red, and then maybe it just went completely black when they were dying or something. But that might be a part of it. It could have just been, the color. You can just change the color if you want to. But that was something I wanted to mention because I wasn't sure if it was health based or solely aesthetics based, and they just changed that by themselves. But I thought that was actually pretty cool. You have there's a bunch of different things. You can separate creature parts, which I thought was pretty cool. We got to see a little bit of that in the Microsoft demo. I don't believe the arm actually came off when he did that, but when he did like the little, it was almost like the Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry, which of course a lot of people are saying this is like Devil May Cry meets Bayonetta meets Monster Hunter and other games meeting each other, which sounds really great. But you can separate creature parts, and he has sort of a dragon like zip line pretty much, and so you have to like scan the creatures and target their weak points, and then once you find it, you can basically zip line to those points, and you hold on, and if you get enough damage, you'll separate that part of the creature's body. So I thought that was very cool. Allows for it to do less damage to your dragon, so your dragon can do more damage to it, which I thought was very cool. I was calling it like the dragon mode. I was calling the dragon trigger. It would be funny if they called it that because the devil trigger is what it is in Devil May Cry. So I just thought it'd be funny if they did that and it was like this will be the dragon trigger. But you can climb the creatures as well outside of the sort of zipline move. You can actually climb them because there's a scene where they're fighting like a giant praying mantis, and he keeps saying climb, but he never did it. He was just doing the normal attacks. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's kind of like I want to say the name was Dragon's Dogma, where you could climb the creatures and stuff. And it seems like it has a bit of that element to it as well, where there are just a lot of possibilities on how you can team up with your dragon to take down these giant creatures. Because technically you can just stand back if you want to and just see what happens. But you can, of course, get invested in the fight. The creatures won't just like hit you once and then you die. So you will work with your dragon against giant creatures. Same thing with human enemies as well, which was really what I wanted to see. I wanted to see what it was like with the smaller enemies and how the gameplay worked out when it was you and your dragon against a bunch of little enemies, and that looked really cool. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, this looks more entertaining than the boss fight to me, because it was like we get to see how it's different. And the player was like, you go over there, and there are like people with bow and arrows like way off on the cliff somewhere shooting, and so the dragon like flies up there and hits them with fireballs while the player is still fighting on the ground. And then he points towards kind of like the spawn point for the enemies, and the dragon just like shoots more fireballs, blows the whole thing up. The dragon does like a little tail flip thing, which we kind of saw in the demo where he actually flipped to throw the player, but he can do that as an attack. It's like a backflip for the dragon, and it'll be a big attack. But it'll stomp on normal human characters, throw fireballs at them like crazy. Don't know if he eats them, because that's what I was hoping for when I was watching the demo, because I thought he was just going to like lean down and just eat the guy like a movie or something, but didn't see that from the gameplay I caught. But I would love to see that happen, if you can just look over and your dragon just like chomps down on the dude and they just vanish like a movie. But it looked really cool. I like the action that we got to see. There are, like I mentioned, the 4-player co-op, there's a lot of customization there. So what has me really curious about that is if we can do 4-player co-op throughout the campaign, but I feel like we can't, because the way they've done it, the main demo showed it, and it was during a boss fight, and then the long demo that I watched, it was also during a boss fight. Like, it didn't happen, there was no co-op or anything until the very end of the demo, and there was no actual gameplay of it. It was just like, the other 3 characters come in with their dragons. It's the exact same intro, like, even has the same dialogue. So at least how they're showing it now, it seems like the co-op is actually only in boss fights, which would be a little weird to have it set that way. At the same time, though, you got 4 people, you got like 4 half-dragon dudes and 4 actual dragons. That's like insanely super OP. Like, they already destroyed the boss doing that when we watched the Microsoft demo. They were like flying through that. I couldn't imagine what it's like you're going through the main campaign. Like, you'd be able to hit like 3 enemies in like 3 hours, because you got 4 dragons shooting people, stomping people, and then you got 3 other people around you attacking, everyone's gonna get like one person they get to attack per battle or something crazy like that. So I'm not sure how that'll play out. Like, I don't know if it'll scale up, which I think would be great if they did do that. And it would have to scale up like crazy because you have, 4 dragons and 4, human characters. So it would have to be like, if you normally do, and like in the demo, I believe there were maybe about a dozen, a baker's dozen, like 13 people or so. And a couple of people, like I said, were on the ridge, so he sent the dragon away and then he was fighting. If you add 3 more people to that, as well as 3 more dragons, I feel like it would have to be like 5 times that much because you got the dragons really, and they can do so much damage. And then that way it's still fun for the actual player. So kind of have to just wait and see on that because I didn't see any of the open world stuff, and it wasn't specified whether or not it was open world, but it certainly seems open world. So that I thought was interesting, and you go around. Didn't get to see anything of the character flying on the dragon outside of the Microsoft 4-player co-op demo, so that was a little unfortunate. I kind of wanted to see a lot more of the world and really just what that looked like. There's the tiniest bit of story from the demo as well, because that's what I'm really curious about, because I'm huge on story. And I actually like Platinum Games. They normally have pretty interesting stories for their stuff, and clearly they're doing a crazy setting. But all I really got to see were there were some dudes in armor, and that was it. It was like, holy crap, I've never seen a beast like this before. He's like one of the dragon tamers or whatever, or something like that. And then they instantly fought, and that was pretty much the only little tiny sector story that was, taken out for this demo. So I really want to know more about the story. It has a lot of great elements to it, the 4-player co-op and stuff. But overall, just watching it, it just doesn't look as entertaining as you might think. Like, picking out all those points and like putting them all together, like putting all the cool points together in a row, it seems really awesome. Like, it seems like it's a really fun time, but when you watch it, it feels really slow. And I mentioned this reminds me almost of The Surge, which is kind of like a Dark Souls sort of game. I did the same thing in that video. When I was saying all the cool points at once, I was like, man, it makes me interested in the game. But then I'm like, I have to think about what I actually saw, and it just didn't look as entertaining to me. It's it's also an RPG, so it's not a hack and slash game like they normally do. Platinum Games, going from Bayonetta and whatnot. It's an RPG game, so it's much slower paced. There was a lot of running around. Like, you fought a couple enemies in the beginning. They ran into like a giant praying mantis that they fought, and that looked cool. Like I said, the amputating the different body parts of the creature and stuff like that, being able to climb, even though I didn't really get to see it. A lot of cool ideas, but it just seemed a bit slow. And a lot of people said that in the comments too. It was like, I was checking to see, I was like, what do other people think about this? Because some people really love it, and it's like, I think I enjoyed it more when I saw the very first trailer. I was like, okay, this looks cool. And it's Platinum Games as well, which had me super excited. And if anything, this seems like it would be, more hack and slash than the other games they did. Because it's like, you got a dragon plus a guy who's like half dragon. That seems like it fits perfectly in line with them doing their hack and slash stuff. And then it's like, oh, it's a slower paced RPG sort of style. And that kind of throws me a little bit. So it was a bit surprising to see that. But I don't know. Right now, I'm not super excited for it. It's like, I love all the ideas together. I love Platinum Games, and they might just get me with the story. Like, who knows? That might be all it takes. But I really got to see more of this one. Right now, it's honestly like, I don't think I'm gonna get. Like, it's honestly, I don't want to say nay because it's not like it just doesn't interest me in any way, shape, or form. Like, no, there really aren't any games that like don't interest me at all. But if I had to like pick or choose, I would say nay. It's kind of the same with The Surge. It's like a lot of cool ideas all at once, but when I watch the gameplay, it's like, this just seems like it could easily get repetitive. It seems too wide open and not enough, gameplay really, or not enough of the action that I really want to see. And with them both being new IPs, they aren't throwing a ton of the story at us right now. So that's another thing where it's like, you might really get me if the gameplay is kind of like, the gameplay can be a bit fun here and there. And which I assume it will be, like actually getting my hands on. It's like I get to play with a dragon. The fact that the AI changes based on what boosts you give your dragon, just that idea in itself seems like there's a ton of gameplay. You get multiple weapons. You can add elemental attacks to your dragon as well, so he doesn't have to shoot fireballs. He can shoot like giant ice balls and freeze the enemies. So there are elemental attacks even. There's a lot of stuff that you can do and change, and I'm sure the more I see, the more I'll like it. But for now, every time I look at it, like the E3 demo, I really hate it because, like I said, the boss fight stuff, I just always feel is the worst. But even when I watch like the lesser enemy stuff, it's like I don't know. It seems cool. When it first started, I was like, I definitely like this more than the demo, but it just didn't like blow me away. The stuff I did love the most was the praying mantis thing, and it was like a lesser version of the boss fight, and it was just a giant creature, and he was doing the sort of zipline move to target different body parts and like knock them off of the creature, so that the dragon could have more of an advantage as they work together, and it was like that seems really cool. I love that idea, but just fighting the other people, it was just like the movements even seemed a bit slow. They didn't seem like super cool. When he did the dragon mode, it was pretty sweet, and it expanded his moveset where when he was normal, he could hit one enemy, but when he went into like the dragon mode, he actually dashed at one enemy, but he hit two enemies that were on the side. So it seems like you automatically hit three enemies at once when you're in your dragon state. I thought that was a cool concept. I was like, alright, that's pretty cool. It's not just a physical boost where obviously you're stronger, but there are little extra elements that you add to it as well, where it's like now I can hit more than one enemy at a time. Maybe it was also depending on the attacks as well. But I thought that was a cool little feature. Like, okay, multiple enemies can be hit. Maybe it's, like I said, set to certain moves, so the dash attack hits three enemies at once. It's kind of like a shockwave sort of thing, we could say. And then a normal slash still only hits one enemy, but it's just stronger. So I like the idea of it, and there are a lot of other cool little things in here. It's also Platinum Games, so with this setting and with it being Platinum Games, as crazy as their stories normally are, they still end up being like really fun and interesting to know. Like Bayonetta is one of the craziest out there stories ever, but when you go through it, it's actually like, this is actually a pretty good story. It's the gameplay that really hooks people, but the story is actually pretty fun for both those games. I haven't gotten through the second one. I've only played like 2 hours of it, unfortunately. I've had it forever too. But, you know, the stories are so insane, but they're still really good, just like Metal Gear Rising. It's like really crazy story. Yeah, of course, the Metal Gear universe, so it's gotta be crazy. But, really crazy story, but as you go through it, it's like it's still actually really entertaining, and it fits the frantic style. Like it gets really crazy. You fight crazy enemies and bosses and stuff like that, and you still enjoy it. So I'm hoping we get that from this game as well, because I think the story is really where I'm gonna love the game, and then I'll still get it just for that. And the gameplay may not be like, you know, Platinum Games hack and slash style, but I'll know that because I already know it's an RPG. So I think I'll still be able to get through it as long as they come out with some story elements that like really blow me away. But for now, it's kind of on the lesser end of things. I'm not super excited for it. I'm less excited, like I said, when they first got announced. I was like, that looks really cool. It's a dude with a dragon, and you know, he goes into like the dragon mode and all that stuff. And then actually seeing it, it just seems really slow paced. Like it just seems kind of like a typical RPG, and I'm not the biggest fan of those either. So I don't know, it still has me because of the whole dragon thing, admittedly, and how it seems like there's sort of a blend between the slow pace and the fast paced stuff once you get into the action. But it's really early, so it's really hard to judge. It's like pre-alpha at this point, so it's not a lot like even thrown into the code just yet. So I know that's another part of it. Was like, I can't just be like, this sucks and stuff. It's a brand new IP. It's still pre-alpha, so you know, I'm not just dismissing the whole thing because it's already shown me a lot of cool stuff. It's just, you know, some of the grander ideas still don't really get me. Like overall, kind of just the action of it, which it's a video game, it's an action video game. It just doesn't like really hook me in. But I'm still looking forward to it. I'm very curious what they're gonna do with the story and seeing kind of more of the action, because they're kind of just showing like the biggest things right now. I want to see some of the more intricate stuff. I'd love to see more of the weapons. I only really got to see a sword and a shield, which I thought was cool. You also you have to switch between your sword and shield to attack and defend. So I thought that was cool. Like you actually have to switch to use them. I don't know if I'd like that all the time, because like why not just have a button to block? But I thought that was a cool little element. Like you have to switch to your sword, you have to switch to your shield. But I want to see like the really big great sword and the spear and stuff like that, and how the moves look and things. Because he definitely has different styles, different speeds, different range of attack, of course. So I want to see that stuff, which they still haven't really shown off. I saw like a glimpse where it's like, here are the other weapons, and it was like 2 seconds a piece. Like, oh, here's a cool spin attack, and then here's a cool great sword slash attack, and that was all I got to see of those weapons. I was like, well, I'd love to see more of that because that would help me get more excited. But would love to know what you guys think about this one. If you're excited, if you're not excited, so please comment below. Let me know, yay or nay for this one. Are you right in the middle? Like I said, for me, I'm closer to nay on this one than even in the middle, to be totally honest, because like it just seems too slow paced to me. But we'll see how it goes. It's Platinum doing something different, but like I said, their stories are always great to me, so that might kind of reel me in. But like I said, of course, want to know what you guys think, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.